Alright, so welcome to the video on meditation. As you can see right here, there is a YouTube video where I sit down with you and meditate for an hour, because I will preface this video with telling you that I'm going to tell you to meditate an hour every single day for an entire year. But if you're used to my videos by now, you know I'm going to give you some research papers, some Google Qs, and some books to be able to properly educate yourself and hopefully convince yourself based on the science that meditation is something that you should add into your day. So we're going to start off with a research paper called Dopamine, Time, and Human Impulsivity. This is probably my favorite piece of literature on the internet right now, which also has a document in the Journal of Neuroscience. So if you've ever heard of the marshmallow test, I'm going to explain the marshmallow test to you real quick. So if you haven't heard of the marshmallow test, it's a very, very big indicator on success later in life. With dopamine, time, and impulsive behaviors, what the marshmallow test was determining is a kid sits down, they get one marshmallow put in front of them, but if they can wait, they'll get 2 marshmallows to eat. So this test is for little children. As you can see, there's a kid staring at a marshmallow right here. And if kids ate the marshmallow, they had more impulsive behaviors, which led to a less successful life as they got older. And then the people that could wait and delay for more had better lives when they were older. Basically, less financial issues if you look at everything around the marshmallow test. So in this first research paper, you're going to notice that meditation will take you from a reactive place to a responsive place, where anger is a reaction. You don't respond in anger, because if you really truly think about what's happening, you're not going to react to it. You're going to take a moment and be able to respond to it. You're going to be able to logically perceive the information that's being presented to you. So one of the Google Qs that's going to come off of this research paper is learning about dopamine dysregulation syndrome. So now we know a lot of people claim to have ADD, ADHD, ODD. I was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, ODD, depression, and anxiety growing up, went to therapy, did all the fun stuff that never actually helped. And I can tell you, meditating was one of the most biggest things that helped me, that I was never taught at all growing up. No one told me, oh yeah, you're having these problems because you're not meditating enough. So the characteristics, loss of control and impulsivity associated with dopamine functions is exemplified by the disorders such as addiction and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So when you're looking at the marshmallow test, you can see choose smaller sooner. So these tiny little things that make us happy, and think in terms of this: scrolling through videos on the internet, releasing dopamine, experiencing some sort of happy feeling, you laugh at a video, makes you feel good, so we choose these smaller, sooner good feelings over the larger, later rewards. Like reading a book would be a larger, later reward. Scrolling through social media, releasing dopamine, that is your shorter, sooner reward, which is the dopamine, time, and human impulsivity. So this brings us over to one of our Google Qs, where meditation in your telomeres. And if you've read the book called The Telomere Effect, you understand chromosomes, DNA, and what role the telomeres play. But you'll also learn in that book where they talk about taking people to a meditation-based retreat. So we'll talk about MBSR in here a little bit, but the meditation is a key factor of plasticity, stress, not aging, because you're not stressing as much. So meditation increases gray matter and lengthens telomeres, helping slow the effects of aging in the brain. Now, same thing with short-term gains versus long-term gains. This is where we go with not only aging in the brain. If making short-term behaviors, you think in the long term, short-term memory versus long-term memory, you're not sleeping properly, you're not going to be converting your long-term memory. So when you're looking at people that make short-term decisions, they're usually people who do not meditate. They are people who have not found the truth behind stress, because stress kills, and if stress is real and stress hurts you, why would you not want to get rid of it forever? So one of the key takeaways is find Zen, never stress again, that can be found through meditation. And these are the bits and pieces that start to paint together the picture in your mind behind possibly adding this process to your daily basis. Because you can see right here, as we age, our brains decrease, and long-term meditators have their brains for longer. So now if you've watched the brain-derived neurotrophin factor video, you've watched the fasting videos, you've watched the microbiome videos, you can start to see how all of this information connects itself together. So with this research article here, you can read a book called Mindful Compassion. And we've talked about this in the telomere video, but why do some 60-year-olds look and feel like 40-year-olds and some 40-year-olds look and feel like 60-year-olds? This is that short-term gain versus long-term gain. Making decisions that are going to pay you back for the rest of your life are the important decisions to make. When you first start meditating, you're not going to be good at it. It's that short-term versus the long-term. You're going to have to sit down, and there's going to be many days when you meditate. That's why I made the video with you, meditating for an hour, to show you that it's possible. But I can tell you that I started with an hour. I forced myself to keep my eyes closed because I was convinced through the information that I'm giving to you, plus some other things. So when you first start, you're not going to experience the benefits of it. It's where, like Simon Sinek talks about, when you first go work out, you don't magically have a six-pack. You don't magically look extremely fit. So what's the point of continuing to do it, right? That short-term interaction, you're not experiencing any visible benefits in the mirror. You're not going to be experiencing any visible benefits in your mind. But if you read Habits of a Happy Brain, which is like 45 days, The One Thing, Gary Keller and Jay Pompson, 63 days, or maybe The Belief of Biology by Bruce Lipton, or anything by Joe Dispenza, you'll start to realize that these small moments add up. And then eventually, I think it was like day 26 for me, is where I found the saying, find Zen, never stress again. Because if you actually add meditation into your life, you stop feeling so drawn to things that don't really benefit your life. Like where you are constantly reacting to reality, you start to be able to just take a second, thinking fast and slow, or blink, a power of thinking without thinking. You start to take a second to be able to actually just sit there and just kind of observe. Like, is this interaction valuable to me? Is this valuable to humanity? Is this something that is going to be useful for me 2 years from now? You'll really truly start to be able to start making decisions from a responsive place. And one of the biggest benefits, I would say, is around anxiety, like social anxiety, being worried about what other people think of you. Because the best and worst that anybody's ever going to do in their entire lifetime is think a thought, and it's up to you whether or not that thought actually matters, because matter can't matter unless it matters to you. So if you're the person that is observing the matter, well, you're making it matter or not. So like the biggest takeaway for me was not being scared anymore. Like you see people and you would think that they're thinking something, right? We project the thoughts we're taught to think, and we would perceive from a baseline that these people are thinking this, these people are saying this. I mean, I record these videos while I'm on my TikTok and a couple other platforms. And there's people that say weird stuff all the time. Best and worst anybody's ever going to do in their entire lifetime is think a thought, and that's up to whether or not that thought actually matters. Well, it doesn't matter when people say negative things to me because it's been a really long time. And I know the people that say negative things are always going to say negative things. But there's always somebody out there that's trying to improve their life. Like the people that watch these videos. There's tons of them. I can see them. Like it's you're never going to ever have to worry about negative people because it's not going to affect you anymore. That's the whole point of this. Where my mind used to ruminate around the negative parts of reality. I thought the worst things could possibly be happening. I was convinced the worst things were happening. And then they weren't. So the social anxiety is going to melt away through meditation. And I think that's the most biggest benefit of this is because I didn't feel that anxiety anymore. Like it just disappears. And that's why I say find Zen, never stress again. Because I started doing this in a coffee shop. I noticed it just disappear. I didn't feel what I felt before. Like the garage door would be open in the coffee shop, a fire truck would go by, and instead of reacting to the fire truck, I was more curious how many other people were distracted by it. Because I started noticing the difference between a mind that meditated and a mind that did not meditate. And you will be able to as well. Now, hopefully not taking a gigantic leap here, I'm not sure if you've looked at the genetic testing or anything, but the telomere effect reveals how Blackburn and Eppel's findings, together with research from colleagues around the world, cumulatively show that sleep quality, why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, exercise. Genetic variants make people feel positive benefits of exercise versus not feeling positive benefits to exercise. This is like the variation between, like, why would one person be a gym bro and the other person be like, yeah, I don't really care to exercise at all. Aspects of diet. This is where we bring in the gut microbiome testing, the genetic testing, the blood testing, understanding the diet that you should be on. So now you got Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, exercise. They're going to talk about it in the telomere effect, aspects of diet. You can read the microbiome diet, Raphael Kelman, and then even certain chemical profoundly effects of telomeres and chronic stress. So chronic stress, find Zen, never stress again. Negative thoughts, self-love affirmations when you sleep at night on the homeostatic line. Strained relationships, which is letting go of the people in your life that don't belong there. Like, you're better off falling asleep alone than you are in the arms of the wrong person, because same thing. Short-term versus long-term decision making. I remember getting rid of my last friend that I had, and well, you find new ones in life, but I remember getting rid of that last person. And it was because the way that they interacted with the world just did not attract me to that anymore. I just didn't have interest in the impulsive behaviors that the person would partake in. And I was more aligned with, okay, what can I do now that's going to benefit my life, compounding 10 years from now? So my decision making changed, and not just through meditation. I'm not saying when you sit down and think about the thoughts you were taught to think that your life's magically going to change. But if you start to add these pieces of the puzzle together, there's no way your life doesn't change, because this is all based on science. So even the wrong neighborhoods can eat away at them. And it's speaking about telomeres. And in this book, you're going to learn about people who were born into like a rich neighborhood, a rich stress-free environment. They have a little bit of a better life on the innate side of things versus the people that were born in an environment that was just trash and garbage and broken stuff everywhere. I was born into a very poor neighborhood. So are my telomeres shorter? Probably. My mom wasn't very healthy. There was a lot of stress. There was depression. My genetic variants were the same thing as hers. So my telomeres, being born, were definitely shorter than somebody who was born into a happy, healthy, loving home relationship in a fancy neighborhood. So like, your environment affects your DNA. So this is where it gets a little crazy, but I'm not going to bore you about telomeres. Back to meditation. So now when you're looking into meditation research papers, look for ones that talk about the amygdala. And the amygdala, right here, we're just going to keep it as simple as possible for everybody. So an amygdala hijacked is an emotional response that is immediate, overwhelming, and out of measure with the actual stimulus, because it has triggered much more significant emotional threat. So this is where anger comes into play. Meditate, find Zen, never stress again. You're going to learn how meditation affects your amygdala. And this is the stuff that I want you to self-study on, because I was a very reactive, angry person who would try to fight somebody at the smallest inkling of the most ridiculous thing that would possibly happen. Like, somebody accidentally did something and I would assume it was an aggressive attack towards me. Or like somebody in traffic, the people that scream and yell out of their cars in traffic or lay on the horn and all the crazy stuff. Yeah. After you meditate long enough, you'll sit there at the stoplight and kind of just be like, wonder if this person's going to sit at the green light till it turns red. And I've done that. Versus being the person that winds down the window, screams, yells, starts swearing out the window at somebody else. So, involved with the experiencing of emotions. So now imagine in your brain where when you experience an emotion, you react to it. You just immediately react to it. It is a short-term interaction where many people regret the way that they take certain emotions. They regret that the way they interacted with somebody wasn't what they meant to do. Or somebody fights and then they come back and say sorry. They're not meditating. They're not thinking about the responsive long-term interaction of a situation. So, through meditating, you will learn your amygdala is a very important part of that, as well as the limbic system. So, the amygdala is going to get you into the limbic system as well. And remember, find Zen, never stress again. Fear, they say, is false evidence appearing real. So, the amygdala is commonly on the neuronal system processing fearful, threatening stimuli. The detection of threat. Nobody's out to hurt you, unless you're in the woods and a big, giant, ferocious bear is chasing you. I used to be afraid to pick up the phone and call strangers. I used to be afraid to talk to a person I was interested in. I used to be afraid to talk about my thoughts out loud to other people. And if you're watching any of these videos, you can see that there's tons of them. If you're watching this on the website, you know there's more videos. If you're watching this on YouTube, consider clicking the subscribe button, comment down below, let me know what I should do next. But this is all about you understanding how to make yourself better. And many people do not meditate. They will tell you to meditate for 15 minutes. Congratulations, you went against science. 1 hour every single day for an entire year. And your first few months in, you will start to reap the benefits. And this is the last thing I want to motivate you with on the amygdala. So the amygdala. There's another area of the brain that has changed through meditation, the amygdala. But it doesn't get larger, it shrinks. So imagine if your fear center would shrink in your brain. Like your ability to feel fear goes and shrinks. That is the secret sauce. Like, to be honest, like I'm really not scared of anything. Like, I think the only thing I'd be scared of is an irrational human being who is irrational, and I'm just gonna leave that situation immediately. That's why I don't go near bars anymore. There's a lot of rationality there. You ever wonder why people that drink alcohol they get all angry and stuff? Well, amygdala and drinking alcohol. So remember, you can shrink your anxiety and fear and general stress centers through meditation, among other things. However, this is another one. Amygdala and drinking alcohol. How does alcohol affect the amygdala? Increased amygdala activity. So if you ever wonder why drunk guys fight each other, well, just do some research there. It's very fun. It's why you won't go to bars if you meditate or live a healthy lifestyle, because you're just like, yeah, no thanks. I'm not going to put myself in that environment. And the cool part here is think in terms of this. Imagine, okay, so you have one person who's not drinking, one person who's inebriated out of their mind. That person who's inebriated is misperceiving things as threats and has a higher threat response. So where you would say something and you didn't mean it that way logically, that person can't perceive that you didn't mean it that way and then gets a heightened sense of anger. Versus the person who isn't drinking alcohol says, oh, they meant that. And oh, they're actually not going to feel threatened by you. So it's really interesting to learn about this, and this is like one of the reasons why just don't drink alcohol. It's poison. So now I'm not about to overwhelm you with a bunch of words that might not make sense. I want you to self-educate. That is the whole purpose of these videos. But in this video down here, okay, it's going to talk about body awareness. Now, when I first started doing this, I could tell you, and I remember the moments from sitting there that like my hands, like it just felt like I didn't have hands, which sounds totally insane coming from somebody who used to be an angry gym bro who ate a bunch of garbage and was mean all the time. I felt my hands disintegrate, and I was like, "Whoa!" So bodily sensations, like yeah, your legs might fall asleep if you're sitting the wrong way. Your butt might get numb. So there's some things you might have to adjust. Sit on a comfy pillow, or don't cross your legs. Like I sat like this against a couch, and then your head's gonna drop. The video will talk about that for the hour meditation. You can just Google it. Homeostasis diet, how to meditate for an hour. Enter. But musical mantras, when I was looking into meditation, you could listen to like water. You can block out the sounds around you. I can tell you from meditating in a coffee shop that it was extremely difficult at first because I would hear a girl laugh and my brain would be like, she sounds cute. And I would think the look for some weird reason, like me looking at some cute girl is going to change my reality in some way, shape, or form. But the latter, okay, implies letting attention open to whatever comes to mind. You need to be aware that it's okay if you're thinking about a giraffe flying on the back of a T-Rex dinosaur that's phasing through a black hole and creating a multiverse out of its clawing into the dark matter. Whatever happens, let it happen. Just witness it. Be aware of it. That is the process behind meditation. So there is no perfect way to do it. Sit down and don't move and just let your mind wander. Because once you learn to see how your mind wanders, that's when you start to gain control over it. Let it wander and think about. I remember literally thinking about zebras and giraffes for some weird reason. I was like, somehow I'm thinking about a fucking zebra. So let your mind wander. Just let it go. And then eventually you will know how to control that. And then once you can start to control it, you'll start to be able to find the override where you're doing something, and then you become more aware that that's not beneficial to you. A lot of this is prefaced on following the homeostatic line, to where the meditation helps with the neuronal plasticity, helps your brain reform its circuitry a little bit better than people who don't meditate in the middle of the day. If you are fasting, you do have that hour during lunch where everybody just goes and eats food and does whatever they do. Go find a tree, sit under that shit, and meditate. This is your life, this is your future. And this goes back to the short term versus long term. Short term dopamine seeking behaviors that are impulsive would be going out to lunch with your friends at a job you hate. That is impulsive behavior, period. You hate your job, stop spending time around people that you don't want to be around. You dislike something about your life, stop spending time in the environment that you dislike, change it. So, where people, and I'll give you a live example, I was doing this while I was working. Those people didn't like me. They thought I was weird. Well, who's the weird person now, many years later, who has everything that they've ever wanted because they learned to control their mind? Me. I have everything I've ever wanted, and it just continues to get better on every single day. I can tell you, I did at one point in time look back and see what those people were doing, and I was like, oh, dang, they're just still working the same job, doing the same stuff. Like, don't do that. But sometimes you would want to do that to remind yourself, well, shit, my life got so much better because I wanted it to. And now I have the attention to make it real. So don't feel weird when people think you're weird for meditating. And here's what you say back to them, okay? Because it's going to happen. They say, you're weird. And I said, you're weird for thinking I'm weird for being healthy. Get away from me. Because anybody who thinks it's weird to take care of yourself, yeah, sorry, there's the door. Have a great day. Like stretching in line, like I will sit down waiting for my coffee and I will stretch and sit there and do some yoga while waiting. If anybody thinks that's weird, I don't care. I don't want to be 70 years old and have a hard time getting up. Or where you start to reach your late 30s and you're like, ugh, my joints hurt. Yeah, because you're not taking care of yourself. So when it comes to meditating, let the mind wander. So let's wrap up this video. There's not too many books on meditating. I really don't want to give you books on meditating because you should just meditate, not waste your time with all of this other stuff. It's really just going to talk about like the history, why people do it, like Buddha type books, Thich Nhat Hanh, mindfulness meditation or the miracle of mindfulness, I think it is. But those books really aren't going to help you out a lot. And I want to make one thing very clear. Meditation is going to reduce your ability to perceive pain. Meditators experience less pain. They're going to find that in research. Meditation, the mental anguish, the levels of mental anguish that you can experience that don't affect you are going to continue to increase with every hour. So I want to make it very clear. If you're a person that watches this long in my videos, you're the one who gains the most because you're investing in me, and I'm about to invest years and years and years of something that I wish I knew when I first started this back into you. If you bring mindfulness into your life too soon, which it's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. It's good to not stress. It's good to find Zen, never stress again. However, if you were once stressed about not having enough money and suffering, and you start to meditate, that stress and suffering will go away, but you will still be financially insecure. So there's a lot of people that do suffer, but they go to mindfulness and convince themselves that they don't need these things. I'm going to tell you, based on being an extremely poor person at one point in my life, that do not think that money is not useful. Everyone that says it's not important is totally missing the point. It does not make you a bad person to make money, to be happy, to do what you want. So when introducing meditation to your life, be very aware that all of the stress and pain that you have is going to eventually, most of it obviously, like if you break your leg, you're still going to feel pain. But the stress connected to the things in your life that aren't right will slowly diminish itself. And I remember this was some research paper they were talking about like pain thresholds. So like experienced meditators versus non-meditators had like a higher percentage of a pain threshold. So what I would say is just be very careful where you introduce meditation into your life. So the Google cues you're going to want to check out here: meditation and anxiety, meditation and stress, meditation and telomeres, and then meditation and depression, because they're all connected together. It's the whole point of this health page. You don't want to be depressed. You don't want to have anxiety. You don't want to stress. You don't want to be suffering from things that could be easily solved by mindset or fixing the microbiome to then fix your money. So fix your mind, fix your microbiome, fix your money, or fix your money, fix your mind, fix your mind, fix your money, fix it however you want. But just please understand that the only thing that I know is true, based on personal experience and reading through so much stuff that it's pointless at some point in time. You just reach a point where everything's repeating itself and you're like, all right, meditate an hour every single day for an entire year and tell me that you didn't find Zen and you learned to never stress again. Because I remember through meditation, the way that I did it was I used to be a very bad person. I didn't love myself, so I did a lot of unloving and unbecoming things of a person who could spend time around other people and it actually benefit other people. So during my meditations, I thought about all the people that I hurt. Like at first, you're going to be thinking about giraffes and flying elephants. Eventually, you're going to be able to focus that attention on experiences in your life that you've had that you wish you didn't have. And then you're going to be able to reassociate with those experiences and feelings. And I remember growing up not having a dad. Didn't mean anything to me. But then I was meditating on it one day and I realized, I'm like, dang, this definitely did affect my life in some way, shape, or form. I don't like sports. Why is that? Oh, well, I didn't have a dad to teach me to like sports. But that all comes back to like innate behaviors. The thoughts that you were taught to think are going to be different than somebody else's. So the key takeaway from this video: meditate an hour every single day for an entire year. Try to do it in the middle of your day. Think about when your brain is most active. I'm going to leave you here with a little bit of a fox chart. So think about the most active part of your brain. When you wake up in the morning, so here's, remember our homeostatic line. You know this by now if you're watching these videos. We wake up, we're in our delta brainwaves down here. So we go to bed, we're hitting our deepest brainwaves. And then we wake up and we're going into our most active brainwaves. And then we go to bed in our day and then we go into our deepest brainwaves. So there's the average person's day. Now, if these brainwaves down here and down here are the ones that allow us to change our brains, which means we're in our subconscious mind, we're pushing our brain towards its most plastic state, not its most active state. So you got your theta and delta, you got your alpha and your beta. So what you would be doing essentially is same thing, following the homeostatic line here, but where our brains are in delta and theta, they're coming out, we're waking up, lunch hits. We want to drop back down. And then when the rest of our day goes on, we want to eventually drop back down and reach where we were. So this, in an ideal reality, would be the best. Because if you can meditate in the middle of the day, for me, it was behind task switching. This was the beginning part of my day here, where I was waking up, I was going and doing all my work, I was listening to my books, I would get off sometimes around noon because we just did like half days, and then I would meditate, and then I would task switch to the next process for my day. So you're more than welcome to follow this one, which is what most of society follows. It's kind of like the sugar model, where people wake up. So people wake up, they don't let their glycogen deplete, they spike their blood sugar gets low, they spike it again, they spike it again, they spike it again, they spike it again, and then they just constantly have high blood sugar throughout the day. Versus the other person who wakes up, doesn't eat, lets their glycogen deplete, reaches that level of insulin sensitivity, follows throughout the day, letting their brain grow, letting their body replenish itself in the ways, shapes, and forms that the fasting video will educate you on, and then they spike their blood sugar. And then boom, they wake up with their blood sugar right where it should probably be. And then that's when they decide, wake up, don't eat, let your glycogen deplete, or be like everybody else that's developing diabetes and weight gain and all of the avoidable things in life. So I appreciate you for watching this video. Some key words in here, specifically the amygdala, learning about the amygdala, learning about the limbic system, learning about your default mode network. And there is no right way to do meditation. Sit down, relax, breathe, let your mind wander, because eventually your mind won't wander anymore. There are a lot of people that are just wandering around this world wondering why life doesn't work the way that they want it to. You will find out why it wasn't working the way that you wanted it to, because you were the person that was making it work the way that it is. So, the thoughts that you've been taught to think, spend some time sitting down thinking about the thoughts that you were taught to think, because you can live a good life off the thoughts of others, but in order to live a great life, you must find your own. And I think you can find those through meditating, among some other things. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.